everyone, and welcome. We're thrilled to be here all together today. I'm Madison Niceley, Customer Marketing Manager here at Bloomfire. We're also joined today by Bloomfire's Senior Enterprise Customer Success Manager, Jason Pafford. Jason brings over a decade of experience learning, training, and developing high-performing teams across contact center and retail environments. He's also led enterprise scale programs in HR and people development, including onboarding, performance management, and leadership development frameworks for organizations with thousands of employees. And then, as you all know, so today we're diving into Bloomfire Boards, capability you may have seen in other platforms in the form of pages or collections, but ours is designed to go a step further than that. So Bloomfire Boards are more comprehensive, they're governance ready, and they're focused on creating trusted, searchable home for your most important knowledge. When knowledge lives in silos across drives, platforms, chat threads, or even people's heads, employees spend more time hunting than actually helping and driving improvements and change in your organization. So Boards really help solve that by creating unified, trusted spaces where your most important information is not only organized, but intelligently surfaced and kept up to date, a key capability in building true enterprise intelligence. So the purpose of today's session is to discuss the common challenges many organizations face today in knowledge fragmentation and content sprawl, and how Boards can help address this at your organization. So during this session, we'll also share real-world scenarios where Boards improve findability, governance, and the end-user experience, ultimately improving employee productivity and satisfaction. And then lastly, we'll also provide practical steps to adopt or expand the use of Boards in your own organization, whether you're just getting started or you're looking to scale. We're here, especially Jason, we're here to help you through all that and make sure that is a success and drive high engagement across the board at your organization. So everyone is getting the most out of your Bloomfire investment at the end of the day. Jason, I want to start with a question that I'd say is probably on everyone's mind and one that you get most often, and all of the other CSMs too on the team. Why is knowledge fragmentation still such a massive problem in organizations today?
You're absolutely right, Madison. Many of the customers that I work with have struggled with these problems before coming to Bloomfire. So if you have knowledge spread across departments and projects, even different tools, then you're lacking a unified way to find what you need when you need it. And so that's why we're seeing more organizations moving beyond traditional KM and much more toward enterprise intelligence, which is a framework built around surfacing real-time, trusted knowledge where it's needed most. So the fact is today is that most enterprises still lack a trusted source of truth. And in those cases, employees spend an average of 8.5 hours per week, which equates to one full day of work for full-time employees searching for answers with no resolution. And sometimes it's even worse, of 5.6 hours recreating documents that already exist, but they couldn't find them. So whereas in Bloomfire, both the time spent searching and or recreating documents is nearly cut in half. So that's exactly where one of our principles of enterprise intelligence, connecting knowledge pools, becomes critical. So without a system that unifies knowledge across departments, platforms, and file types, organizations often end up paying the price in wasted time, duplicated effort, and employee frustration. So platforms like SharePoint, I came from a SharePoint shop, or legacy intranets weren't built for this reality. They tend to reinforce silos and not break them down.
And it's not just necessarily about search, right? So employees don't always have a specific question. They may be coming into the platform like to see any updates that they should be aware of, just any new news, I guess, or refresh their skills, whatever that might mean. So it's not just necessarily a question, but sometimes they they just need to browse for what's new, what's relevant for their role at the end of the day. They're not sure where to start though. And that's one of the kickers, I would say.
Yeah. It's really like, it's the crux of the problem. So most intranet or knowledge portals, they try to be everything for everyone. And in the end, they end up being useful to no one. So the knowledge that really matters to your day-to-day work, critical processes, role-specific updates or team resources, it gets buried in that framework. And then what happens after that is people just give up. They either interrupt somebody via a chat, or they duplicate work, or they just skip a process entirely. And it's not just frustrating to them, but for a business, it's expensive and risky.
Yeah, and on top of that, then like once that starts, it just has a ripple effect. So our Value of Enterprise Intelligence report actually shows that when knowledge is fragmented or buried, employees spend up to 30% of their work week searching for information or recreating what already exists across your organization. So that kind of inefficiency slows down cross-team collaboration, delays strategic decision making, and even chips away at their trust in leadership as well. So especially when employees can't find those critical updates or even follow those clear processes.
Yeah, and that's really where the urgency comes in. It's not just about inconvenience anymore. Letting fragmentation like that persist really introduces genuine business risk, like missed insights or reduced agility as a company, and even mistakes that impact revenue or compliance. So when you're able to connect your knowledge pools and use Bloomfire Boards to organize the content at the team level, or through a full platform integration that links systems across the enterprise, you're not just making the information easier to find, you're actually creating this single connected intelligence layer that ensures that knowledge flows seamlessly across both tools and teams.
And this is where Bloomfire Boards come in, right? Like the main point of why we're all here today. So boards are that customizable landing page or pages that let you organize knowledge around what matters most at your organization. So whether it's a team, a project, a product launch, or even onboarding for your new hires, it really has what's going to be most important to your team. You're able to customize it to that, which is so great, and what I think is like so exciting. Each board becomes that centralized searchable hub tailored to that specific audience, again, for whatever that purpose is. You can drag and drop important files, highlight key updates, and make sure the most critical content is always front and center for your team. Again, making that knowledge more accessible to everyone that needs it, when and where they need it as well. So instead of forcing people to guess the right search term, they can browse those boards to uncover the right documents, insights, and processes quickly and confidently. So this is the connective layer that bridges knowledge pools, whether that information originated in a drive, a chat thread, or a team member's head, helping your organization operate with that real-time intelligence, not reactive searching. And what really sets boards apart is how approachable they are for everyone. So not just admins, but end users too. Even if you don't know what to search for, you can browse boards to find, again, the relevant documents, resources, and insights, what's going to be most critical to you in your current role, help you make those strategic decisions, but also prepare you for the future. Maybe you're looking to get promoted. Maybe you're just looking to expand your responsibilities. It helps you find that information, again, what's pertinent currently, but also future planning as well. So it's all about surfacing the right information at the right time for the right people at the end of the day. Again, a core principle of enterprise intelligence. So I'm sure after that, you're thinking, well, for some of our newer members at least, how do Bloomfire Boards work exactly? So it's customization made simple. You don't need IT to build a board. Using that drag and drop widget, you can feature important documents, highlight announcements, embed videos or dashboards, and even pull in live feeds that update automatically with new content. And then boards can also be tailored for specific audiences, like I've already mentioned. So by team, role, or even region. So every employee sees what's most relevant to them without being overloaded with noise. And then lastly, board surface in-platform search results, but they're also easy to browse. So that means whether you know exactly what you're looking for or you're just trying to get oriented, you'll find what you need faster.
It's just one of the things I love. It's speaking to learners however they want to learn, either as a search result or by being able to browse the content that's important to them. So boards are just super powerful, and they really, overall, they adapt to your team's biggest priorities of the moment. Giving you an example of how one of my customers' teams uses them. So they've deployed Bloomfire across their entire enterprise. They particularly use boards as a solution for their contact center operations. So before boards, these materials were kind of scattered across emails or SharePoint folders and old training decks. And agents wasted time hunting, and managers spent hours answering repeat questions through Teams chat. With Bloomfire Boards, they created dedicated contact center board, housing all updates, systems, and department resources in one place. So the great thing about that is it auto updates when new content is added, and it lets managers track engagement to see what's actually being utilized. And so the result that they've had, agents resolve customer issues faster, managers spend much less time fielding repetitive questions, and basically everybody feels more confident with their resources that are at their fingertips. So it's a true example of knowledge in the flow of work and not buried in a folder or 5 layers deep in a folder structure.
And that's just one example, right? So just to give you guys, and we'll be sending out some information on this too. And obviously your CSMs, everyone's happy to talk to you and like plan with you further, but just to give you a little bit more of an idea of how some of our other customers use boards, those product launch hubs to align sales, marketing, and support. So really that true organizational alignment. Onboarding boards, those provide new hires with all the information they need in one place. So they're not having to look across all these different areas to get fully up to speed and just fully up to speed and know what they need to do in their new role. And then also research and insights boards to surface personas, trend reports, even competitive intel. So, and that's not even just the exhaustive list, right? So there's so much more to that. And again, we're happy to plan with you as well. So in each case, the value remains the same, right? Less time searching, fewer repeated questions, and then more confidence that your team is working from the same trusted source of truth. Everyone's on the same page. Again, that organizational alignment to help you make those strategic decisions faster and drive even more growth in your business.
And actually, when you compare it to other solutions like a intranet or folders or wikis, Bloomfire boards make knowledge much more social, dynamic, and still governed. So you can set permissions by group, you can track engagement, you can make sure that outdated or redundant content gets flagged and cleaned up automatically. So it's just much easier to scale across your business without creating more silos, which is the last thing we need. And then for me, I think boards really drive real engagement because they're more intuitive. They're built around how people work, which means they're spending less time searching, asking fewer questions, and just really being more confident that everybody's working from that same trusted source of information.
Yeah, definitely. Again, that's the power of Bloomfire Board, right? That's why we designed it, and we want everyone to see that same impact that so many of our customers are already seeing. So very exciting stuff. They're not just, I see it like they're not just another content management tool is what I like to kind of think of them as. They're that smarter, faster way to organize, govern, and capture knowledge at scale, right? So providing an edge over the static intranets and fragmented systems that are still out in the market today. So Jason, what advice do you have or would you give your customers to make sure their boards rollout is not only smooth and seamless, but also impactful? And then alongside that, even for some of our more prospective customers that aren't already seeing the impact of the platform, I guess, could you just speak to, that common advice that you give people when they want to make sure their board's rollout is just as impactful as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the neat thing about the approach to boards is it's applicable in so many different cases. Even if you aren't on the Bloomfire platform, these are ideas that you can take away and work with. But working with boards has been one of my favorite features. I've been on the platform for 8 years now. And so used to it. This is one of my favorite features to come along. And as I think about these coming from that instructional design space, a few major things to kind of take away. Make sure that you're anchoring that board to a clear business use case. So you want to start with a board that's tied to some type of measurable outcome, like reducing onboarding time. That's the space that I came from. Aligning your sales team on a particular launch, or a support board that's cutting down support escalations. That's going to give you the proof of value really quickly, which is what all of our leaderships likes to see. Give me those numbers, give me that data. Also coming from that training space and the UX space, designing for your end user. So as admins in the platform or leaders in the platform, sometimes we work very differently and we know the tool backwards and forwards. But anytime you're designing something like this, make sure you're designing it for the end user with clear labels, a layout that's intuitive, and it surfaces the most critical information for them in their role. The boards aren't just for admins, they're for employees who may not know what they're looking for. So it's on us to build those in a nice logical way that matches with the audience we're creating for. And then assign ownership. As admins, sometimes we take on too much. Boards don't have to be static. You can actually assign a content owner and utilize things like our auto updating feeds, so the content is dynamic and fresh. You can always look at engagement metrics and make sure that that board remains relevant throughout the whole lifetime. And boards are iterative. They keep growing, they keep changing. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. If we notice things and dynamics around a project change, we can easily communicate that to our end users.
Yeah, that's a great, very helpful tip. So thank you for sharing that. And then alongside that, just to go a little further, Jason, what design-wise, like what tips would help a board resonate also?
Yeah, there are quite a few things I like to look at, but some of the top ones, mixing up content types. So making sure that we have things like, it's a great way to display town hall videos or discussions on a topic. So videos, documents, dashboards, quick links to pull tools that an agent uses all into one place so they can start their day. Things like that keep boards engaging. You also want to make sure that you're leveraging the board widgets strategically. So we've got featured content for like most must-have things that they need every day. Feeds for more of that browsing experience so that it's continuously updated without you having to put in the work. And then even have a simple no-code promo bar widget so you can create quick navigation to wherever they need to go. I'm a big fan of branding it, making that board feel like it's part of your culture and not just a generic page to land on. So carrying through that theme from your main community into the boards, just tying everything together so it feels really nicely cohesive. And then because boards can be used for so many things, and we will be sharing after this like lots of examples. There's so much you can use them for. Replicate your success. So once you find a board framework that works really well for your business, you can quickly and easily reuse it by copying that template over, assigning a content owner, and letting them update it for that particular team or project. So I think when you're planning your board strategy, one of the big things that is easy to fall into is, I'm going to build onboarding. So I'm going to build my onboarding board. And you get excited about that main page, but if you haven't thought through your framework, then you're stuck with nothing to add to your onboarding board. So instead of starting at the top, at the beginning of where you want to go, start by understanding your existing content. So what content do I already have? What are the daily use items that my team has to have to do their job? And then from there, once you understand that, you can start to begin grouping them logically. So from there, you can kind of build upward. I come from a sales contact center world. So when I think of onboarding, I kind of mapped out, hey, here's onboarding. That's where I want to land. But then I kind of break that down into sales and service. And then under sales, how do I break that down further all the way down to my content pieces? And so that bottom up to top down approach kind of makes sure that every piece of content has a home and your end user can navigate it with purpose, which is the important part. That's what we all want to happen.
Yeah, that's such great just things to consider when you're building this. It made me think of the whole picture rather than just like a tiny, piece of the puzzle or like piece of the pie, if you will. So yeah, definitely like huge things to be considering when you're building those. And these best practices are the blueprint for driving that adoption across your boards, right? Across your organization and team. So again, just to reiterate, start smaller, perhaps with maybe an onboarding board, and then expand into those product launches, customer insights, department hubs to stay aligned. Again, the list could go on forever. But each new board opens the door for more engagement and maximizes the return of that Bloomfire investment in seeing, again, the most impact possible to your organization.
Absolutely. It's one of those boards are way beyond. They're not just about content organization. It's about so much more, like driving those measurable business outcomes that we were talking about, how we tie those to the use case, less wasted time, better alignment, better decisions, stronger customer experiences, which is what we all want. So just a really exciting tool to help take the platform, to me, to the next level of really surfacing that stuff that folks need on the day-to-day.
100%. I know we've talked about a lot in the short 30 minutes that we've all been together so far. So just to recap everything we've just spoken about, so organizations come to Bloomfire because their knowledge is fragmented and buried, right? So leading to wasted time and duplicated work, not efficient for anyone ever. Boards solve that by organizing knowledge around what matters most to your organization and by embodying the principle of connecting knowledge pools. They unify information, make it easier to trust, and surface it in the flow of your work. So pulling that knowledge for your employees, for your teams, when and where they need it most.
And we've seen firsthand how impactful they can be, from faster onboarding times to more consistent product launches, better customer support outcomes. Boards just really help teams work smarter and more confidently. And so the ROI is real. I mean, folks are spending less time searching, teams are collaborating more effectively, and customers can feel that impact through faster responses, a more consistent customer experience. So way beyond just managing content, it's really about unlocking that measurable business value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And going off of that, so I know we've shared best practices for how to see that business value and how to drive the most impact back to your organization and most engagement. So start with those high value use cases. Like Jason mentioned, design it with the end user in mind, keep your content fresh and up to date, and then also assign ownership. Those steps ensure that your boards are not only going to launch smoothly and seamlessly, but will continue to deliver that value over time. And whether you're just exploring Bloomfire and want to see those quick wins, or you're a current customer looking to expand adoption, the opportunity is the same. Use boards to surface knowledge in a way that drives both engagement and results. Again, that's always our ultimate goal in working with you all, is that you're seeing the most amount of impact for your organization, really seeing that organizational change, as in like efficiency, effectiveness, and driving those strategic decisions, moving your business forward at the end of the day. So in doing so, take a step toward building the connected, intelligent ecosystem that defines enterprise intelligence at the end of the day.
Yeah. Boards really do just help your organization move from just storing knowledge to utilizing it at scale, which is our whole plan. That's what it's there for. So it creates that alignment, that confidence, that measurable business impact that's so more important now than ever.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we're getting excited, like it's an exciting topic for me and Jason, if you can't tell, but I think that's a great place for us to actually transition into our Q&A section of this webinar. Want to make sure we get to all of your guys' questions. Yeah, let's jump into it. Jason, let's see what we have. So Jason, here's a great question, and one that I know all of our customer success team gets quite often across all of the customers that you work with, but especially when it comes to boards, that is. But what strategies have you seen work best to drive initial adoption with boards?
The most successful board rollouts that I've seen, and we want them all to be successful, start small. And I think it's really important to tie those to a very, very clear use case. Like I want to tackle our onboarding, or I want to tackle product launches, so that your teams can see the immediate value of the boards. I think it's also critical to design with the end user in mind. And this actually loops into a question we got from an audience member we'll tackle in a moment. Making sure that we're using clear labels, we're featuring content in dynamic widgets to keep it intuitive and fresh, but within a consumable framework. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, boards are able to be created by admins and owners, but it's really important to assign content owners to maintain that over time, so that the burden is not on admins, owners, but on the actual subject matter experts that control that content. That's when boards stay the most relevant. That's when adoption is the most natural. And then you have those options to include boards in either your navigation bar or by pinning the featured boards list to help kind of aid in that adoption.
Yeah, I love that. I think it goes along with like it's specific to you and your team's needs as well. You know, like what makes sense for someone might not make sense for you and your team. So that's why it's really important that you work with Jason and your designated CSM and really think of like what's going to be most important and drive that adoption across my team, like what makes the most sense as far as like how to set this up. So great question and great answer, Jason. Moving on to the next one, let's see. Does Bloomfire have any best practices, recommendations, or guidelines around board creation? Our team is especially interested in helping our customers understand how much is too much when designing boards, so we can avoid overload and ensure a friendly, effective experience. Great question.
And we do, and I think we're going to share it, or if not, it's available on help.bloomfire.com. We have a great kind of boards template and use guides, best practices, explains all the widgets, gives you really good examples. But the approach that I typically go for is less is more. You want to focus on keeping an amount of consumable content on that board. A lot of times I think of it of, let me see the most important information, but help me navigate to the deep dive if I want it. And so maybe there are some boards that are really link-focused, but you don't want that to be the landing page. You want people to be able to navigate easily to those. So it is really scenario-based, depending on where you're going. But more, in my idea, keeping as much as you can kind of above the jump. You don't want users, if they're just landing on a topic page, to have to scroll for days to find all the information.
100%. And then moving forward on to our next question in the chat, how easy is it to create and customize a board? Do we need IT support?
Oh, goodness, no, not at all. Don't need IT support at all. Creating and customizing boards is really easy. I do recommend that document that I mentioned. here just because I think it's that I can choose from and how do I want to display. But I actually met with a customer this morning, and I know some of that team is on the call too. I think the biggest thing to start with is the board that I'm building, what content do I need? And how is that content grouped together? Like, is it all part of a single category so I can bring it in through a feed that automatically updates particular communication that's really important? Maybe I want to use a featured single post for that. So always take a look at your content first, and then what are the aligning features there? And then how do I best collect that for my users to consume the way that I need my point to get across?
Yeah, and then this is also, I mean, all of these are common questions that we get, but this one is especially one where my brain always goes to, but how do permissions work? Can I make some boards private to a group while others are open to everyone? And Jason, I'll let you take that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So permissions in Bloomfire are fully customizable at both the board and the post level. So you can make some boards visible to everybody while you restrict others to specific teams, roles, or groups. And that really gives you the flexibility to use content broadly. I always think of a lot of people can easily confuse boards and groups overall. So one little hint that I give there is groups is to silo off and permission content. Boards, you can create audiences with content that's specific for an audience.
Yeah, and then going off of that, as far as you mentioned groups too, what would be the benefit of a board instead of a group?
I'm always a fan of democratizing knowledge and having it available to everybody, because you don't know where your next bench operator is. Who's that person that's going to grow? So as much content as can be shared, I think, is important. And that's why I lean toward boards as a collection of information that everybody can access, whereas groups I think of very much on permission of, like, I worked in HR for a long time. There's a lot of documentation around HR that needs to be siloed off and really only have very few permission users. Same with some, things like that. There are things that need to be segmented and permissioned off, but when possible, I always recommend giving people access and then using boards to collect that in a meaningful way to serve that content up to the end user.
Yeah, great point. And I know, like, going back to the whole permissions thing, I also wanted to mention that one thing where what I always think of it is it goes to back to the whole idea that this capability, and honestly, the entire Bloomfire platform as a whole for that matter, but are designed to make work efficient and easier for users through the content that is most relevant to you and the rest of your team. So really eliminating that unnecessary noise. So again, you do have that opportunity to make something private or not, depending on the topic. Maybe you're not ready to have that released out to the rest of your team. You're still trying to work through things before you make it public. Or it's just like, for whatever reason, there's no reason that somebody else needs to have access to that. It really depends, but again, you have the flexibility to decide, like, who still gets access, who doesn't, depending on roles or job functions. You can choose that accessibility. Let's see. This chat is quite active. I love to see it. All right, here's another great one too, Jason. How do boards compare to our existing intranet or SharePoint site?
So I spend a lot of time in SharePoint. So most intranets and tools like SharePoint are really built and designed to store information, and not really designed around making information easy to find or easy to use, and definitely not for keeping it up to date. And that's the biggest difference. So Bloomfire boards go way beyond that kind of pages by making your content easily searchable, dynamic, personalized by team, all without IT support. For each in SharePoint, it's a nightmare. There are 14 options for columns this way, and then all kinds of things here, and it's just really, really overwhelming. boards come with built-in governance. They come with engagement insights so we can see how people are interacting with those. Auto-updating widgets with the feeds. So it just really helps content stay much more accurate and useful over time. And it's all about surfacing the right information at the right time. And that's something that traditional systems just really weren't built to do. Very much a simplified and easier experience than SharePoint has ever been in my mind.
And then also, one last question as far as the follow-up from our last one, as far as accessibility and permissions. Jason, can you explain a little bit further? Would you say boards are for the public community and groups are for more private information? Can you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. Boards are for everybody, which is wonderful. So boards can be utilized for any type of information, whether that information is consumable by everybody in your organization or for a specific group. So looping back to that HR instance I was thinking of. So maybe you're using an HR group and the information within that group is published only to the group, which means only those people can access. But within the HR group, you can have multiple boards of, like, think of our wellness initiatives. So you could have internal project planning boards around wellness for your HR team. That's all segmented off and only they can see it. But maybe you have another organization facing board that's bringing that wellness information as it's completed out to everybody of here's our wellness fair and here's some, all kinds of things. So it's really both. It doesn't have to be one or the other, which is the beautiful things. So definitely don't limit boards to really permissioning off content, and boards is going to serve it up no matter who the audience is. You can pick that part. But you can use boards anywhere.
Yeah, thank you. And then let's see. I think if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the in our Q&A chat. I know we still have some time to be able to speak to those. We have one last question, it looks like at the moment, but Jason, could you walk us through some recommended use case for boards? And I will preface this, and I'm seeing there are more than one question as far as use case, and just trying to get some ideas as far as where to start with boards for those that are just starting out. I will preface this though, that in our follow-up, and Jason, you alluded to it as well already, but we'll have a PDF document sent to all of you that goes through different examples, and we'll go through some different use cases. But just while we're live on the call, Jason, could you walk through some recommended use cases for boards?
Absolutely. And I did see that in the chat around research and market insights. So I'm delighted to talk about that. But let me go general first, and then I'll dive in just on that one. Boards can be used to align around big initiatives, things like mergers, new product rollouts, leadership changes, really anything that's a cross-functional initiative or announcement. That's a great way to use them. But the document that we're going to share out has a lot of, if you use Bloomfire for Customer Board, here are some great ways that you can use boards to help you with that. For research and insights, one of my favorites that I saw with my customers, they had this big cross-functional initiative that is, these are our jobs that we're getting done this year. And they fall into these 4 pillars. Ended up building a board ecosystem around the larger project, but dedicated pillar boards that really focused in on that particular aspect of the project. Brought together research and insights from no matter where it needed to be, like maybe it was related to a particular category, but overall that's still pulling into this pillar initiative. So it gives folks to navigate through and support that larger initiative, having everything in one place.
Let's see. So not seeing any more other questions at the moment in our chat, but thank you for all of those that did comment. And I'm happy that we were able to get to everyone's questions while we were live on this call. But if you did, if any questions come up once we are not on this session anymore, feel free to either send us an email or ask it in your next meeting with your designated CSM. But we'll be sure to also, again, send that PDF copy that we alluded to in our follow-up. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you leave with a clear understanding of how Bloomfire Boards can help your team save time, stay aligned, and unlock the full potential of your enterprise knowledge. Our team is here if you'd like to continue that conversation about how boards can make a difference for your organization, and start helping you generate more ideas as far as how you can, where you can start, but also for those of you who have been using it for quite some time, where you can continue to grow and expand out those across the rest of your organization. And of course, thank you, Jason, for sharing such great insights and actions to drive that change. And thank you again for all those who joined us. And we're so excited that you were here today. If you'd like to revisit any part of this conversation or even share it with your colleagues, that is also going to be available to you. Again, we'll send that also in the follow-up, that full recording, and it'll also be accessible on our website. And if today's discussion sparked any ideas for how your team could consolidate scattered content, empower your employees, and ensure your content remains up to date, we'd love to help you explore what that could look like. So again, thank you again can't thank you enough for spending time with us today, and we will see you next time.